just a pretty big one.
Took me a long time to get to the point where I was allowed to have Town of Camden YouTube channel access. It felt really great right at first, but
No, not so much.
yeah, I mean,
But now that you mention it, it's just a pretty big one.
okay, here we
Took
go.
me a long time to
Oh,
get to the
hold on,
point where I
shoot,
was allowed to have
Turn off the YouTube channel.
Stop.
Turn off the YouTube channel.
Yeah. The problem is when you log in and you start it, it automatically like
Pops
another
up
window opens with it. So you have to be ready. All
Ready, Eddie.
right, Linda, somebody texting Linda to say to come back.
Oh, I don't think she should have forgotten it that quickly.
Well, I hope she's okay because she was going out for a walk.
Right, we talked to her 20 minutes ago.
We did.
She's a big girl. All right. Bear with us. We have a couple of guests and a couple of guest topics that actually relate to already existing agenda items, I'm assuming, and I will tee those up. We'll cover the agenda items a little out of order in deference to our guests who are esteemed. I'll leave it
How
at
many
that.
guests do we have?
Before we get to that, just a little of the standard stuff. Richard, any corrections to the minutes?
I have not looked.
Richard, I just saw you looking.
I'm looking at the agenda.
Hi, Linda.
Hello.
Any objections? Did everybody see the secret message in the minutes?
I didn't read the minutes.
You don't have to read them. You can see it.
Oh,
You mean the one that says draft?
No, but it's hidden. It's hard to see.
You mean the leaves?
Yes. Thank you, Helen.
Okay.
Makes me feel
I
good.
better. All right.
Those are fall leaves, fall leaves. Okay. Any objections to approve them as written? Linda, you good with that? Thumbs up? Thank you. I've lost my secretary here. Any ideas, anybody for prospects for committee members?
What town do we need?
Oh, Trevor Mills is a maybe still. I'm still on him. Rockport. Yeah,
How many do we need from Rockport, Jeff?
5 and 5 and 2 alternates.
Oh, man.
But how many do we need at this point? We need,
1. I think
we
we
just
need
need
one.
one person?
I think so. That was because Owen left. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Who was I thinking of? But Trevor would be that person. He said he's going to monitor, but he also just became the president of McNemba. So, yeah. All right. I'm going to jump around a little bit here. Under, and I'm guessing at this, Jeremy, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, under bike awareness, which is under subcommittee reports, it's a Mechanic Street report. And no, I don't want to do that. This is Jeremy, sorry. It's
105 sidewalk.
it's the 105 sidewalk, which related to Shirt Tail.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not seeing it right now, but anyway, let's talk about 105.
So as
Oh,
I
it
understand,
is in there. Yeah.
it is in there. Jeff, as I understand, there's an agenda item to talk about, and Audra asked me the other day about whether Pathways would, or are they thinking about writing some sort of letter to the editor, or at least advocating for, or at least providing information to the community about the Shirt Tail sidewalk project going from Matthew John to Shirt Tail Point. And I don't know, but I guess that's why I'm here, is at least to just explain what that project is and how we got to where we are. And
Yeah, I talked to Audra about this and
Let me try this. Anita and I spoke last night, and Anita did a good job drafting up a letter.
Oh,
So we have the article already, and I think it's
Oh,
good.
okay.
Do you want me to read it?
I guess maybe read it and then maybe if I could comment on it because I've been, no comments. Okay. I mean, whatever you want me to do.
What do you guys think?
so the reason for Jeremy.
I'd like to hear it. I haven't even,
Well, Anita did a good job because we
Well-
talked about positioning on the article because most people have no idea of the history.
Mm.
And so somehow that has to be teed up in the article to give people the background that this is just not a taking. They need to know what a bit of the history, although not all of it. And that the rationale is that this is not something that was just randomly done, but it was a lot of energy was brought to the table from multiple years, and it's through no fault of anybody. And as a decision, this is not a random, what's the word? knee-jerk decision. It's arrived at through circumstances, and it's not that egregious of a request at all. So I think that the tone that Anita wrote up is actually very good. Jeremy, do you want to speak for a little while on background?
Well, maybe background is probably the best thing, I think, maybe because it is a public meeting. And Heidi, I think, was just asking about it, and I can at least explain what has happened and got us to this point. And then as the Pathways Committee, you guys can comment all you want on the letter that, you know, and I won't say anything about that, and I could leave the conversation. You guys can, you know, do whatever. As Jeff said, this has been many years in the making, lots of effort to do, take a sidewalk. As you know, Washington Street, there's a sidewalk from downtown up to Matthew John, and that's where the sidewalk ends. There's been a concerted effort over many years, as Jeff indicated, to extend that sidewalk out to Shertail Point. And this is a Maine DOT project. It's what's called a locally administered project. The town has a certain responsibility, and then all of a sudden it transfers over to the state as part of this locally administered project. And part of this is the town works with our engineer, and we work on due property acquisition because it's a locally administered project. This is all DOT right away. This is not town. This is like part of Route 105, but it is a local, in essence, right away, but it is state controlled. So we were handling the engineering and the property acquisition. And that, when I say acquisition, that refers to sometimes there is a taking needed. There's also always needed construction easements or drainage easements so that while contractors are putting a sidewalk in within the right of way, they have the ability to grade you know, adjacent property owners' land to make sure that drainage works and the sidewalk works and it's accessible and all of that. So while that happened all the way up the street, and so there are 4 properties in this whole stretch from Matthew John all the way to Shertail Point that unfortunately we cannot do all of the drainage, all of the construction easements, and all of the work within the existing right-of-way. So there were 4 properties that we had to work with, and there's a process for that. There's a big manual that DOT, this is a federal project. It's a big manual. I will say, I really don't want to do an LAP project again after experiencing this, how this is played out. However, what happens is we are required to hire an appraiser. And that appraiser has to understand DOT's requirements and has DOT experience doing other right-of-way work. That appraiser is a qualified appraiser. It's what he does is he takes the engineered plans and looks at how it impacts that property owner's property. Is there a tree removal needed? Is there a location where a construction easement is needed? So while they're doing construction, they can at least work around the area that's within the right of way. And is there a drainage easement needed, for instance? And that's where water is piped from one catch basin along a curb to another catch basin, then it outfalls somewhere onto someone's property generally. And those you need drainage easements to do that. So there were 4 properties impacted. The appraiser does what they do. They are licensed appraisers. Again, I'm not an appraiser. I can't really speak to it, but they're certified licensed appraisers and they meet certain criteria to do this work and they have experience doing this work. They do this, and again, we have 4 property owners. Also, there's a third-party peer reviewer appraiser that is required to be hired. So that peer reviewer, it's a third party, another certified appraiser that's familiar with DOT and federal requirements on takings and how you appraise land, comes in, reviews the appraisal that we had done by our one appraiser. And that all has to happen before we can go to a property owner and say, we'd like to work out an agreement with you, or, you know, come to an agreement because we'd like to move this sidewalk up the street. It's a public need. It's a necessity. The community's, you know, been advocating for it for years. So in essence, we went through that whole process. And again, this started almost a decade plus ago, and Jeff could probably say the date, but I came here to the town 2.5 years ago, just over 2.5 years ago, into the middle of this project. And I was tasked with doing the property acquisition and finalizing moving this forward because it's on DOT's schedule, which is great because it's very hard to get a project on DOT's schedule. So in the end, 3 property owners agreed with their appraisal and what the town was offering. Again, based on, are we requiring a drainage easement? What type of construction easement? Are we removing trees that are on someone's property? Because remember, utilities need to be moved sometimes, especially telephone poles need to be relocated. Those are generally always located in the right of way. However, unless there's an easement, we have no easements for telephone poles, I will say. They're all located in the right of way. But we have 3 property owners of 4 that we were working with and agreed to what the appraisal was, what the town was offering in terms of dollar amount for the taking, in essence. And again, they get a dollar amount for the actual taking of physical property. And then they get a dollar amount for a construction easement and a drainage easement, or again, if we remove a tree because we need to because of the work. The one property in question now that is on the ballot this year, the woman Karen Penoyer, she has never opposed the sidewalk project. The unfortunate thing is, in her situation, is her driveway where I can't even call it a driveway really, because this is the last property before Shirtail Point.
It's a dirt area.
It's really an area where they park immediately off the road. And so most of, I can't say most of, half of the area that they are parking, and Ms. Penoyer doesn't live there. I think a couple of her sons do. She lives in Connecticut, and she Airbnbs the property. The half of where people park is actually in the existing right of way as it is. So it's not, you know, it's a conundrum because she does not have a setup. The property's not set up for a good driveway. It's really, the house is close to the street. The elevation changes pretty dramatically. And so you pull off the road immediately into a parking spot. I will say part of what in negotiations were happening, we did look at providing her an opportunity, because if you go down Shirtail Point Park and down the road and you're familiar with it, there's a little access that goes into her property down at the, you know, down below.
At the back.
At the back of the house. And there's no legal access. She has no legal access over town property there. And so as part of the negotiation, I said, you know, what we can do is we can't commit forever, right? Because of requirements in town government of license agreements for someone to use our property. I said that we would work out a license agreement in essence to give you legal access to that portion of Shirtail Point. And she didn't like that. I mean, it just didn't do anything for her. She, again, is not opposed to the project. Her concerns were about the ability for her to park cars in that area. we, as part of the negotiation and part of working with her, because we, again, the dollar amount that the appraiser and the peer review appraiser has provided is what it is. We can't really change that. That's an appraisal. It's been done. It's been peer reviewed. So we were doing things, again, trying to understand, and we were commiserating with her about her dilemma about the parking. But again, half of her existing parking is in the right of way. So we were trying to figure out ways to give her more parking. And so we actually went above and beyond, frankly, and extended. We had worked with her to come up with a proposal to extend her driveway forward on her property, even outside of the easement area and the scope of work of the DOT project. We were extending her driveway further towards her house. We're going to relocate a fence for her. And in the end, she would have 19.9 feet of parking area that is on her property still. We were able to figure that way out. I will tell you that a parking space in a Hannaford parking lot or at any parking lot that has zoning, that requires dimensional parking spaces, they're generally 9 by 18. So they're 18 feet long in a Hannaford parking lot or in any parking lot, really. So we were giving her about 20 feet of area to park. She liked that proposal. She was on board with that proposal. Early on, she didn't like the assessment, and she contested what the dollar amount that we were proposing to give her. I had the town assessor look at what the appraisal provided, and he did what appraisers do or assessors do, and he looked at it and he says, I think maybe a $500 adjustment is appropriate. So we offered her it was $1,650. What the certified appraiser said, we ramped that up to another $500 to $2,150. And I had heard nothing about that dollar amount, and it sounded like fine. And we were just working on this situation of providing her more parking. And then as things were moving forward, remember, we're trying to bundle this project, or DOT is bundle this project with they were originally the Elm Street drainage improvements. Just to try to get contractors on board, or not the drainage improvements there, but the
Maritime.
one. They were going to bundle them together to make that work for cost, hopefully efficiency perspective. So we had to get this moving. And we also understand that this is a town LAP project where the town cannot just take a property like DOT can. We have a process, much like DOT does, but DOT can go immediately go to court if someone does not agree with their appraisal and what they're being offered for that, whatever a taking is, again, a taking property rights, taking property or easements for temporary purposes sometimes. DOT can go right to court and have that property taken under eminent domain. The town has to go through a process where it has to go to town meeting, because the town cannot, do this type of action without a town meeting vote. So we were also kind of jammed up against the ballot deadlines to get the ballots completed and a warrant article done. So we've proposed a final offer to Ms. Penoyer, that was consistent with everything that we were working towards. And in the end, she brought up the dollar amount as a problem. And there's been zero communication from her on her end about working out a deal. There was some talk about trying to maybe offer her more. The challenge with that is we have 3 property owners that agreed, Camden taxpayers that agreed to the appraisal and understood that this is a public benefit. And I know one of the houses is in one of the low to moderate income subdivisions off of Washington Street in Mount Batty there. And they agreed, everyone else agreed. And we really can't just start throwing more money at someone just because. So unfortunately, we had to do a public hearing because there was a warrant article needed. We had that, we went through the process, and the select board put this on the agenda for voters to vote on right now. So that's kind of how we got here. I can answer any questions, and then you guys can discuss how you want to handle doing whatever you're going to do.
Questions? Allison.
What's the total like difference between what she wanted and what she think it's like $700 or something, right?
No, I think it's more than that. I think it's $1,000 or so, Allison. I will say that when we talk about taking, if I can just add what we're taking, we are taking
120.
123 square feet, and it was originally 119, and we had to change it a little bit in order to facilitate some of the stuff she was asking for. But 123 square feet, and this is on one end of this taking is 3 feet. That's the maximum dimension going into her property is 3 feet, and that is down by Shirt Tail. And I can share this. Can I share my screen by chance? Do you guys want to see it, or have you seen it?
I've seen it, but I don't know if other people want to see
So
it.
it's 3 feet on one end, the closest part to where her property touches Shirt Tail, our town property at Shirt Tail Point. And then it goes to a point, it goes to a point. I mean, literally, it's 3 feet on one end and a point on the other end. It goes down to 0, and it's just this little triangle sliver of 3 feet. Where her parking is, it's about 1.5 to 2 feet of taking. And we propose to push her driveway 4 feet further out. So actually, she's going to end up having more legal parking, and it's all on her property, than she currently has now. And I just think that's important to know.
But doesn't she lose all of that? All the extra things we offered isn't the point now that if she doesn't take that and it goes to voters as is, then we're not doing the extra stuff anymore. That was.
I would say, Allison, everything is based on this plan, and I think we'll still move that property forward, that driveway forward. These are the plans that DOT's reviewed most recently, and I think we'll still do that. I think that's just a good thing to do. We could, like you say, we could do nothing.
That's what Audra had said, that we have to, when you offer something and they choose not to take the offer, then
You go back to the plan.
consequence. But I mean,
Yeah.
I feel good about doing this, so I'm not. I just.
Yeah.
it
I mean,
was
technically-
people asking questions. Oh, here's Anita. Anita had. It was
Technically,
Anita
you're right. We could just take the property and not do anything else.
There's Anita now. I
And
know.
I think this is basically a strip along the street.
It's a strip along the street. And if you go drive by the property, it's interesting. You'll see where the telephone pole is existing. You'll see how that's in the right of way already. And it's pretty telling on what's what's the right of way existing. So yeah, on one end,
Jeremy, did you mean to say the telephone pole is in the right of way or outside the right of way?
in the right of way right now.
Okay, well, so that
So
doesn't really
if-
show us.
Well, when you drive by, you can, it's obvious, but yes, Heidi or Helen, on one end, it comes to a point and it goes all the way to only 3 feet, 3 plus or, just about 3 feet. And that's how you get that 123 square feet, because it is a good distance. But it is maximum on one side, and it's just a triangle to nothing.
And that impacts her pulling off parking. It doesn't seem to me that 3 feet would make that big a difference, or down. the
And again, to be honest, the 3 feet is on the area at Shirtdale Point of her property. It's not where her parking is. It's about 1.5 feet, and we're 1.5 to 2 feet because it's over 20 feet wide. And it goes, and again, she's still going to have 16 feet if we don't do any additional work. She'll have 16 feet of parking for 2 cars. If we do that additional work that we offered her, she actually gets 20 feet.
Seems reasonable to me, but
It's just that it's on top of the fact that she's already, most people don't realize that they don't own a good portion of their yard. So
we've
That's
got about
true.
3 feet that would take.
it's like, so to her, I'm sure it's a lot more than 3 feet. It's the discovery that she didn't own all that to begin with. And then plus 3 feet, so it's. But
And for a long time, we were negotiating back and forth with her attorney. She had a local attorney involved, and we were negotiating really about how were we going to move a fence to make it work for her aesthetically, how we were going to move some plants that we're going to have to move in order to move that 4 feet towards her house. And then all of a sudden, it just all fell apart.
Other questions for Jeremy before he goes and does something fun? You're on mute, Anita.
I don't know whether it's appropriate for me to weigh in since I'm late. I thought, sorry.
Yeah, you missed 30 minutes of Jeremy, Anita. I'll catch you up later, okay?
And maybe Anita, I just explained what this project is. That's all I did. I didn't comment on anything you guys are doing.
So has the discussion come up about the article or letter that we would write?
No, it's just Jeremy right now.
Okay.
And I don't feel like I should comment on any of that, honestly.
Well, I mean, the most important thing about commenting is really to make sure it's factual.
Well, that's what my original point was. And then I was going to comment after. However, I decided to just do the summary of where we are, and then you guys can discuss this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy.
that's a
And
nice-
I'm assuming, Jeffrey, this is a letter that is going to be written with the Pathways Committee as the author, not just you and Anita. And you're going to read that or send that to us for approval as well?
Whatever we want to decide, yeah. Whatever we decide.
I would like to add, just let you know that I have taken a handful of phone calls from voters about this issue, which just kind of puts me in a very strange place. But I will say, I prefaced every one of those phone calls with, I am not advocating, I'm not telling you obviously how to vote. I'm just going to tell you the history of where we are and what this actually does and what we're actually taking or proposing to take. That's all I was doing. I just want to let you know. So people are asking.
I have gotten, nobody's asked me. That's interesting.
I mean, it's only 3, but
But that's
all
a lot.
all 3 were up, like were supportive of the project. They just wanted to understand how we got here.
Were they other abutters, Jeremy?
No. And I will say, since all this has happened, I have not heard from the other 3 property owners that we have come to, they haven't reached out and said, why are you working a deal with her, or what's going on? So.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other agenda items for Jeremy?
Jeremy, did you say it wasn't being bid with the Maritime project? Or
It was supposed to be, and I just reached out to Arel reached out to me the other day, and Arel is, I'm sure you guys know, DOT. He reached out to me the other day and asked me where we were with this, because they need to bid this out with the Maritime. And I told him, I said, it's got to go to town vote. It's going to town vote. We had the public hearing with the select board. It's going to town vote. I did tell him and express my opinion on the LAP project, because just so you know how this works is we do the engineering on the front end, the property acquisition on before it starts. And then we do all the bid package. And then once that happens, DOT takes over and they do the rest of it all.
Right, but I mean, was the bid scheduled, was it scheduled to be bid before the town vote originally? Is that what the issue is? Do you know that?
Frankly, I'm going to leave the DOT, frankly, doesn't seem to understand municipal government and how town meeting form of government works. So I'm going to say they probably didn't even come to into their mind on how this is moving forward locally, other than they think we can just go take the property.
No, but do they have a scheduled bid date?
I don't think so. I think they were trying to hold up. They're trying to figure that out based on when this taking is happening.
Gotcha.
And I
Dave,
told-
the only thing, Dave, is that we've moved up sort of to red level for MDOT because this project has been pending for so long and the grant money has been sitting out there so long. It's like, hey, you guys need to use this.
Well, I know that when I've talked to Doug, that he asks me, hey, what's going on with that? And I'm like, I really don't know. I think we're at a kind of a stalemate right now. And
Well, and that's where I tell Aurel and Doug, you guys should do we had this discussion with DOT. Should you guys do the acquisition or should we? And they said, no, you guys need to. And this is what you get. I mean, it's got to go to town vote. If DOT did this acquisition, they just already have the property under control.
right, I mean, they have a whole department that's all they do. I mean,
Yeah.
they have attorneys and everybody that just does that.
Yeah. Well, they don't also have to go to,
Right.
town meeting for
They don't have to go to town meeting. They just send you a letter and that's the end of it.
the end.
Dave, if you talk to Doug, can you let him know the process that we're going through here?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna be seeing him next Wednesday.
Yeah, just update him on it, just to say, he likes to know and he's more patient if he knows.
Yeah, and he's really good. I mean, he's like one of the best DOT guys you can deal with.
He's really good.
Yep.
I agree.
So Jeff, I wanted to just before you guys continue. Audra wanted me to draft some sort of letter to you folks about this or a memo on it. And honestly, it's kind of too much to put it all into one memo.
And that's the challenge we had
I get it.
in writing the article. We cannot do what you just did. It will never fly.
Yeah. And I'm not sure it should, I mean, it's like a different, yeah.
People
All right.
cannot take in all this information. Every time I've tried to explain it, it like makes it worse. It's just like focus on the sidewalk and sidewalks are great and shirt tail and won't it be wonderful? And there's no other way.
I think the easiest way to say it is that when you do a project like that, there's strict guidelines that you have to follow. We've followed them to a T, and we're doing exactly what we're supposed to do. It's a fair process, and it's double checked by different parties. And the person's getting the fair market value for the property that is being used as part of this walkway. I mean, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Dave. And I think Ms. Penoyer, I mean, she was pretty, it was a pretty intense hearing, I think, when she spoke, and you guys can go back and watch that meeting with the select board. It was pretty intense. I will say, the thing about it is that she was trying to say, and why the dollar amount wasn't fair is because the appraisal does not equal the town assessed value.
Yeah.
Those two things are not the same. And
Nope.
she's alleging that the town needs to pay her based on the town assessed value. And that is not how this process works. That is not the legal way to do it. Appraisers do what they do. I mean, no one's assessment is the same as the appraisal.
I mean, that's the whole point of doing,
Well,
the whole point of the valuation process is it's supposed to match fair market values. And
It's supposed to.
So
It's supposed to.
to
It's
say it's
supposed to.
totally different, that's where you get into saying any stuff like that. And it even makes people like me want to fight it. So.
I know, I hear you.
Yeah, but real estate appraisal is done, it's all based on a snapshot in time. And when they do the appraisal, it's based on, the market sales in the area and the value. And that doesn't
It's
always,
tricky.
it doesn't always equate.
They're not going
Yeah.
down. They're not going.
Okay.
I don't think
So
we need to go down that.
We don't need to go
rabbit
down this
hole.
road.
Oh,
No.
Okay.
but
I
we
think the
did the
town should also
process.
buy her property and just,
I think we've talked about this long enough.
Okay.
So the question now is, Jerry, you're free to stick around. Anita, can you mute, please?
Sure.
May I be just dismissed, Jeff?
Unless you want to stick around. We wouldn't want to make you feel like you're not wanted.
No, I know. I've had a.
Okay, go, Jeremy, go.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
bye, Jeremy, thank
Thank
you.
you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy. So the bottom line is they're requesting a statement from the Pathways Committee, a letter. And Anita as I mentioned, Anita did a great job in drafting one up. It'll need to be tweaked a little bit now because we didn't quite get the details right, but I tried to add that to the letter while I was listening to Jeremy. Is there any objection to me reading the letter, given the information you now have, and whether it, in your mind, represents the sentiment of the Pathways Committee? Any objection to doing that? Linda,
Can you send us the copy so we can read it?
oh, do you want to just do it that way?
Well, I would rather read it, I think, than hear it.
I can send it now. It's still, I'm sending it now. I don't know if it'll come through to everybody. It's on its way. If you don't have Word, there's images in it and it may not come up well, but it might. Or I could put it on the screen too.
Sure, go ahead and just put it up on the screen if you want to. Share your screen and we can read it that way.
I'm looking for it. You got it? What do you have on your screen? Email or
Nope, it
which
looks
screen do
good.
you have? You want me to enlarge it?
Looks good to me. I'm reading it. Jeff, wasn't this on our Camden's plan, the Pathways plan? Didn't we have that
Top priority.
a priority?
Yeah, along with maritime.
Is-
Yeah,
is
so
that I don't see that in here, that it's a priority.
I don't, that it's been in our,
Pretty sure it's even in the town comprehensive plan.
it
but
is,
nobody
it's in the capital, it's in the priorities for capital, I think. It's been in our plan and our recommendations for priorities to the town for, oh, I don't even know how long. So we could add a sentence like that, Linda, certainly.
Sometimes just, straight bullets are easier for the readers to plow through. It's pretty complex. My only hesitation is, I guess, asking voters to vote a certain way. I fully support giving information and stating that we support the sidewalk out there, but recommending a vote, I don't know. There's something about it that feels uncomfortable to me. And maybe it's something I just have to think about further. But
But wouldn't it be similar to the budget committee recommending a yes vote?
Yeah, but we're not asked to weigh in on a budget committee yes vote. We submit our recommendations for the plans and advocate for what's in our plan.
But we're not telling them to vote that way. We're just recommending it.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's something that I'm struggling with right now in my own head.
Well, if you can get to what that, that's sort of a sense, Linda. And if you can clarify where that sense is based, for me, it's similar to, as I said, when we look at it even says when we go and vote on warrants, it says budget committee recommends, select board recommends. When we go to vote, it says that in writing.
I know.
And so.
No, it never says Camden-Rockport Pathways Committee recommends.
Doesn't.
This is the first time that.
Yeah.
that
I
we
mean,
are-
I would only suggest that you recommend a yes vote on Article 2, because by the time you get down through all of this stuff, they've probably forgotten what the article is.
It says it at the beginning.
That's
it's
mentioned in the
saying-
first paragraph.
Right, but I'm saying
First
once you get all
sentence.
the way down to the bottom, you recommend a vote of yes, and it's like, okay, what number? And then you have to go all the way back up to the top.
It's
I'll
free,
just, like that.
Yeah, it just reinforces the number, the article number.
thank you.
Allison, do you have this, do you echo that funny sense that Linda's trying to express?
I do not, because people need, I mean, it's a nice idea to like not tell people how to vote, just give them information. But a lot of people just, what I see over and over again is they just get really, really confused. And it's like they think it's a trick, like you have to vote no in order to vote yes. And it's perfectly fine to say if you want, I mean, it should be clear. If you want the sidewalk to happen, if you don't want to say we recommend a yes vote, you could just say, if you would like the project to move forward, you should vote yes. I mean, if you wanted to, but.
Well, I'm telling you, the Pathways Committee the purpose of the Pathways Committee is to inform and
Advocate.
they advocate, and we're merely advocating for something. I mean, that's why we are appointed to look at the sidewalks, look at the plans, put things forward. So it would be sort of like the Budget Committee or the Select Board recommending.
So if we do this, then are we committing to do this more? You know, this is a one-time, I would hope that this is not a one-off, that
Well, I think
if we are actually going to step forward politically,
I
then
think Pathways has recommended other votes in the past, but not necessarily for an eminent domain.
when have we written letters advocating for vote?
I don't know. I think we have. I don't recall when.
The only thing that gets me occasionally is wanting to make sure that we don't, like that whole thing of like using taxpayer resources to influence the outcome of an election. And so if you're going to use money from the town budget to send out a mailer telling people to vote yes, that's where, to me, it crosses the line. But I don't know if that's what you're concerned about, Linda, like the ethics of it, or if you're just what angle the concern is coming from. But
This is the first time that we have recommended a vote. And, you know, for full transparency, we've been asked to do this, to send a letter. And if this is something that we're going to start doing in the scope of the mission of the Pathways Committee for all kinds of things in both towns, then I can support it more. But we just haven't done this before. And Allison, I do understand your point that people are just looking for direction or guidance on a really complicated issue here. And Anita, it's a good job of explaining. I think you just break up those paragraphs, break them up into 2 sentences each. And then people will, the ones who are going to plow through it will plow through it.
Yeah.
The other
Dave-
one will look at the first paragraph.
Dave, do you have any town employee sense about this in your experiences with Rockland? And
I don't know.
Does it feel weird?
Without getting into too much of this, honestly, my personal opinion is this is almost like a 50-50 gamble because you don't know how people are going to take this. You know, people get emotional when you start saying, I'm going to take your property. This is my opinion. I think you pay the person $1,000 and you be done with it. And you don't go through all of this. That's what I think.
I think the town is taking the approach that they can't legally do that.
I know, but that's my personal opinion.
Yeah,
Isn't
it already on the ballot?
it is.
yeah,
I mean, people who are voting early have already voted on this, so we really can't go back in that.
right. I mean, but
No.
I don't know. I don't. And then the other part about it is I think it's very well written, but I think it's too long. I think people are gonna want to they're gonna want a shorter version of this, in my opinion. A lot of people aren't gonna take the time to read it.
Linda, can you redline it? Would you be willing to redline it?
So
Sorry,
could I
yeah,
make it,
I can do that. I can do that
What
and
was
send it back to Anita for submission.
And what was the wording? Was it you, Linda, that said something about we encourage this project to move forward or something instead of the yes vote, or what was
I
that?
think that was Allison.
Or is Allison?
I mean, yeah, I just said that as a possibility. I mean, don't want to try to influence you guys. If I were going to write a letter, I would just focus on the sidewalk part. Like, there's going to be a sidewalk to Shirt Tail, and this has to happen in order for that to happen. Just that as soon as you start getting into any of the details of the fairness of appraisals, and that it's just too much.
So you would just say,
It sparks, it sparks, like, you never know which little thing is gonna like spark something. I don't think that it's gonna be an issue for this to pass. But that all we need to know is, I mean, I think it's a good opportunity for the Pathways Committee just to say, this is what we do, and this is a project we've been working on, and we're excited about it, and there's just one step left.
What's the ballot wording? I think we need to
It's
have,
probably awful, you know. I forget, we approved it, but we didn't really have a choice about.
Anita read it
Moving
last
forward with
night. Do you
condemnation.
remember it, Anita?
Just
Anita read it
It
last
is,
night.
the verbiage is incredibly confusing.
Okay.
It is so confusing. And that's why I explained this, because taking someone's property is, you're right, a very hot button issue anytime. And so I think it's important to explain how we can't be more fair than we are as a town because we're constrained. I think that's important to mention. And I think it's helpful. I mean, I put in stuff that I would want to know if I were trying to decide about this.
I think maybe some of the issues that pop out at me when I read this, and I haven't been involved in this for a while, but so I'm reading it maybe as someone outside of this group would read it. And the things that pop out at me from a language standpoint is that there's a lot of sort of negative language, like it's unfortunate and we have to do this sad thing. And I agree with Allison that if we can cut as much of that out as we can while still maintaining some kind of general explanation about why we're doing this, we would be better off. Because I think this is a great explanation, but I also get the feeling all the way through that we feel really sorry about this. And I don't know that that's a great way to present what we're trying to get done. I think people will, for me, that was what I took away from it, was like, oh, this is a really terrible thing we're doing, but we have to do it. And that just doesn't sit right with me very well.
I don't feel sorry.
Well, in my opinion, Jeff, if I may state, again, I said, it's a hot button issue for anybody to have property taken away. And so I think that if we can somehow create a sense that we understand how she feels. Anybody would feel that way. It's confusing, it's challenging, it's unfortunate that this has to be done, but this is the only way that this can be accomplished.
If
I
I
mean-
could make a suggestion,
I think empathy is trying to show some empathy.
And excitement about the sidewalk.
if I may,
Ellen?
yeah, in terms of taking out things, if you see that little yellow dot in the middle, it says this has, it shows up. If you start there and delete down to where it says the Zillow method, so take all of that out. No, back up. So you've got, it is regrettable that the town must be constrained by how it's so on. Then maybe you're not getting so much negative in there. And yet you're still explaining that it's an unfortunate issue, but there's a safety. And frankly, if we could get that picture in the paper along with the letter, I think that says a lot.
Show the other picture too.
Yeah, we can't see the other one.
That was Anita's idea,
So is,
to have the pictures. We don't have control. We don't have control about whether they place it or not, but
but is that actually her parking area?
no.
Those white mailboxes are across, those people are walking pretty much in front of her house now on the bottom picture. And if you look at the mailboxes you can't see it now, but
Little
those
dots.
numbers are in that area.
Okay.
Heidi, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, again, same kind of idea of not having a lot of the history of it, being able to just state that we support it. The visual would be excellent if we could get that in there. I don't know, is there a lot of supporters on the no vote that we feel like we need all these details to describe it? Or can we just be the cheerleaders to say, yes, vote and let's do it? And, if we are in this feeling of, she's rallying the whole neighborhood to vote no, the details on the negative side are needed. If we don't feel that way,
She probably doesn't know the neighbors. She lives in Connecticut.
Right. So to me, I feel like, again, doing that cheerleading of how amazing. We've been working on this for a decade and now we're getting there and we're so close. And
Yeah.
In fact, I would suggest taking out where you've yellowed it, bring it on down, and possibly even Pathways feels it's been a fair process, and just last sentence being, for the sake of public safety, we recommend, and take out everything else in between.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, just
Oh,
bring
you
that,
mean delete the yellow? I know, that's why I highlighted it.
yeah.
I was intended to delete that and then say Pathway feels it's been a fair price for the sake of public safety. Let's get this sidewalk built or something like that.
Yeah, just get the negative, we feel sorry for her out of this, and
Yeah, that message is coming through. Richard, anything to add? I see you, Anita.
Not really. I think getting rid of some of the minutia, the 14 different ways you can come up with a value for 123 square feet of property. The world doesn't need to know that, or it doesn't need to be explained here.
Andrew?
You're muted.
He knows. He just hung up.
Every article I've ever voted on, always at the bottom says whatever committee recommends a yes vote or no vote or whatever it is. So I really think it's great that you're going to put that at the bottom.
So you like that directness, Andrew?
Sorry?
You support that directness of how to vote?
Oh yeah, I mean, every article in there typically, recommended by budget committee, etc. And because a lot of people are not educated on it, and so they see that and they go, oh, well, if they recommend it, I'll vote for it. So if they don't know anything about it.
Right, and that's not going to be on the ballot, so it's
Oh, right. But
putting it
Yeah.
anywhere else would be good. I think it's
it's
the
not.
select board recommends.
Yeah, Anita?
So I think the details are a reflection of my personality. I tend to want to know that, as again, as I said before, especially if you're taking something from someone, my natural inclination would be to say no, or why should we? And I would think a lot of people would feel that way, especially if she has succeeded in generating some sympathy for her situation. So I, as a voter, would want to know why we should overcome and sort of railroad her into this by this method. The other thing I wanted to mention is that there are two images there, and the hope is that if you guys like the idea of an image being shown, if you could choose which one you prefer.
You may run into issues if you're showing the faces of the people, because you would need proper permission to do that. Some newspapers and publications require permission for somebody's, where they can be facially recognized. So the back of them would be better. But Linda could probably come into that.
I mean, it's on public property, so it's.
the yellow truck, the one with the yellow truck looks more menacing. I'd go with that.
Yeah,
I think it depends on the medium, Helen, who, I can't anticipate what other outlets may do. For us, we can take the photos. That's not a big deal.
Without the names?
What? Without the name?
Without name recognition of who's in the picture?
Well, what do you mean? Who's
And we
where are the
put
names?
there are no names. We don't know who they are.
Oh, yeah, no, it's just
We
a
don't have
landscape.
their,
It's just a landscape shot.
yeah, we're not asking their permission to put their pictures out there. That's the question.
They'll be thrilled.
Well, it's in the public venue, it's public space, so that's not a big deal.
Okay. Something new, Allison?
Yes, just really quick, that it might just be better to have a couple different letters, that some people do want more details and some people don't, and that Anita writing, as individuals, there are letters that could be written to fill in some of those gaps.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah.
That might be good for the paper because the paper is limited in space, so you might do well to shave it down.
Allison just said, shave this one down and then publish more details in the letters to the editor. I believe, Allison, is what you said.
Yeah, like it doesn't all have to be that, not everything that needs to be accomplished needs to be in one letter. Just like when people write letters of support for candidates, they focus on different things, and
Yeah.
Well, you could, Anita could ask for opinion space. And then you could get the photos in and the content.
All right, let me see if I can summarize this. One of the things is, with the letter is good. It's a little on the apologetic side, and that we should eliminate some of that. Linda is going to do some of that redlining to minimize it and send it back to Anita and me, and we will tighten it up and then submit it. And then also request that one of the pictures be submitted with it. I think it's a toss-up. Both of them have merits. They're both good. They both they both get the point very well and make the point very well. And then we'll submit that, and then it's likely that Anita and or I will also send a opinion letter in, which provides maybe different pieces of information as well, background information. Is that a fair summary?
Sounds
Okay, moving along. Thank you. That was really, really good input, everybody. We'll see if this goes along. The next one is, and Dave, I'm aware that you're here. Can you share the outcome of Mechanic Street discussion at the select board?
So we presented kind of the final draft of what we were gonna propose to do in terms of striping a Mechanic Street. So real quickly, we're going to maintain a 10-foot travel lane, which is where the vehicles travel. And then the remainder of the section of the road where the line would be a shoulder. And where there's less than 3 feet, we would be putting a sharrow in the road. On the hill and the curve, we proposed a double yellow line. And at the end of the road also, there'd be a double yellow line. Showing that those locations are, have more danger associated with them, and for cars not to pass bicyclists in those locations. That's
It's pretty much what it's pretty much what the Pathways recommended, except there was some question about whether we could run churros all the way up, and that's still a question, Dave. Since I asked the question of, did you see the email from Jim Tassi? Yeah,
I did. I talked with him today, and the sharrows. I mean, we can run the sharrows all the way up. Here's my opinion of the sharrows. Okay, when you put them everywhere, they kind of lose their meaning, I think. And if you have them in the locations where you're losing the shoulder, they mean more when you do that. That's just what I think. It's like, hey, there's more of a chance of the vehicle being in the road here as opposed to being in the shoulder. Now, I understand the other side of it is that if we put them everywhere, then you're saying that that the bicyclist can always be in the road. So I guess it just depends on, it depends on who you are. If you're a bicyclist, I think you're probably thinking of it from the standpoint of, I think everybody should know I can be on the road at any point in time. And I understand that side of it. But I'm thinking about it like, not because I'm just a motorist, but just because I'm thinking about it like probably a motorist will be. I'm a motorist. I really don't care that much about bicyclists. And when there's a sharrow, that means, there's going to be a bicycle here. If it's everywhere, then they're going to be like, oh, these guys are always in the road everywhere. You know what I mean? That's kind of my feeling about it. That doesn't mean I'm right.
Yeah, that is a fair summary, Dave. Is your plan, any questions about it? And will that be painted this fall?
I think that it's kind of a waste at this point to paint this fall. We'll only have the paint down for a month, and then we're going to have snow, and then it's going to get worn off. I mean, it's going to cost, a little bit of money to have that painted, especially with the sharrows and everything. I think I'd like to make a good springtime entrance with the whole thing, get it painted up early spring, be able to monitor it during the whole season, set up, get some good traffic data right now, and then get some traffic data after. And as I told everybody, I think at the meeting yesterday, is that, you start off in a journey and you don't always end up where you thought you were going to go, but at least you're moving ahead with the journey. And that's what we're doing. We just need to think about this as an incremental process. Sometimes these gradual incremental changes, especially in this location, is what you need to get to where you really want to be. there's gonna be others, like, and I know this isn't a super good example because not everybody, it's not a big bike route, but Norwood Avenue is just gonna be a slam dunk. We're gonna put it in.
Are you going to put it in without presenting to the select board?
I think I'm gonna put a memo and just do it. You know, I think that's how I was gonna handle it because it's a no-brainer. I mean, there's no issue there. There's no reason not to do it. There's
Okay.
no line of sight issues. I've talked with all the neighbors. I mean, it's really, I think it's gonna be a good petri dish to show how that, you know, system works.
Okay.
And
Could you
then,
clarify what you're doing on Norwood, please?
well, I mean,
Advisory lanes.
we're gonna do the advisory lane, so I'll send out a letter with more detail, because I want to go out there with my tape measure once it's all kind of paved, but I'm gonna try and maintain 2 5-foot advisory lanes on both sides. They're gonna be dashed, and the rest of it will be just, that'll be the travel lane. And that'll be it. And then I'll put some signs up explaining what that means. And we're gonna have to work with BCM to try and educate people, and slowly, every place that you can do that kind of treatment in a neighborhood, I'm gonna try and do it and you know, see what the results are. Because if you don't try these things and try different things in different locations, you're not gonna really ever learn or understand how to improve them. You're never gonna just be able to just do one thing and get it all right off the bat. I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, I gotta jump off. Sorry.
Thank you, Jane.
Bye.
Linda?
So is this where also the Pathways Committee will be writing some explanatory letters as well as the town of Camden, or helping to educate? Because if we're going to put ourselves out there for this other issue, doesn't it make sense that we weigh in on this one as well?
I think Jeff talked about doing some educational outreach with the Pathways Committee at last night's meeting. I think that's a good idea.
They never said okay.
That they wanted. Yeah, well, I think
I think,
it goes without saying, right, that we need to do that.
hold on,
Well,
education on what?
Let me show you this cool video that I now have authority to play with. You ready?
Mhm.
No, this one. Do you see it? What do you see?
The video.
Ottawa.
Do you have audio?
No.
The audio is great.
Can't hear it.
There you go. Oh, that's pretty cool.
The voiceover is totally reinforcing. Do you know how to make the audio work, Allison? I don't. I might be able to pump it through. No, I'm not going to do it. Anyway.
Just turn it
That's it.
up on your screen. We can hear it through your microphone.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I'm not going to deal with it anymore. Anyway, it's a cool video, and they've given us permission to edit it and use it. And they also have a lot of other material about advisory lanes that help. They've done a whole website to it. So what I was thinking is that we could try to write an article, a small article, put it in the papers, and then reference this video to go learn more about it. And it would be on the Camden website.
Hold on, to teach people about Norwood Ave, or that's because that's.
Advisory lanes.
Oh, preparation
advisory lanes.
to do it somewhere.
When we do Norwood, that's right.
Oh.
This is going to take a little while, Allison. It's not going to go right away.
Oh, I'm happy to edit the video too, to do whatever.
Oh, you can?
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah. I like that stuff.
But we have to change the words and all that stuff because it says
I can do all
Ottawa.
that.
But she's got a really neat voice, Allison.
Oh, what do you mean? I mean,
The
I can-
voiceover is talks about Ottawa.
Oh, well, if she says what she says, then, but
Yeah.
we can change I mean,
We can do it. I know we can do it.
like I can edit videos with software and stuff. I can't be her, but
Yeah. It's all right.
Can't,
Jeffrey, could you forward it to us so that we could see it?
It's
Yeah.
big. It's
Not
5
like we don't have
megs.
to- like, we don't have to
Yeah.
look at it right now, but can you?
You can go to the Ottawa website. It's right there. Or go to type YouTube Advisory Lanes Ottawa. That's how I found it. And then I wrote to the town. But I'm happy to forward it. Okay, Heidi? Or who said that? Linda? Who asked for it?
I didn't say it.
I thought it was
Heidi.
Heidi. Yeah. Happy to forward it.
Nice.
Linda?
What's the timeline, Dave, on getting that ready for Norwood?
Should be done by Monday on the paving, and then I just have to contact the striping guy and tell him what we're gonna want. I'll have to order the signs. I'd like to get the signs before I stripe it.
Next spring. Why not next spring, Dave? Same as mechanic.
That's what I want to do. I mean, I kind of want to wait. I've got kind of some pressure that they, to get it done before then, but I'd like to wait.
I mean, we've been talking about, like, the whole thing was to get it done for this year. And then I've asked, are we missing that deadline to do it this year? The idea
know,
that
but
people don't have bikes in the winter is like, that's not true. The town roads are clear all year round. We're gonna be able
No,
to.
but I'm so frugal. I hate putting paint that's gonna get scraped up in the winter. You know what I
Right.
mean?
But maybe
Right.
we won't like it. That'll be great. It'll be gone. I mean,
So this is not going to happen until next spring. I'm just thinking strategically what the Pathways comes out with for educating the public and then keeping up the consistency. If we're weighing in on a town vote and then we're followed by Norwood, that's great. And if something else comes up in Rockport, that we just sort of build it, that the Pathways is endorsing and things are moving forward. That's my only thought. But if you're waiting till spring, not a big deal. Spring's not that far away.
Well, what would you propose to do? I mean, this was my thought. It gives us time to do some outreach and education and put some stuff out there leading up to it. And then it's like the big unveiling, then you just do it. That's
Just
kind
do
of,
it. No, just do it and then say, have you seen Norwood Ave?
oh,
you know?
well, I mean, I'm asking the question. How would you propose to do it? How would you like to unveil it, I guess, is the way I.
do it as
You
soon
wanna
as
just-
possible.
oh, it's just.
Andrew, did you say as soon as possible?
Yes, before it gets too cold and the paint won't stick or whatever.
Yeah, I'm trying to, Andrew, trying to think of the time to put this materials together too. And Allison.
We're just treating this like such a big deal. If we were doing some radical advisory lane thing on Mechanic Street, then yeah, we have to educate people and whatever, but nothing that's happening on Mechanic Street is a big deal at all. It's just normal road striping. People have seen stripes everywhere. Nobody needs education. It's not going to be that different. And then Norwood is like 50 feet long and people already drive in the middle.
It's not
And
50 feet
it's like-
long. It's longer than 50 feet. But
It's very short and it's very,
55 feet.
people drive in the middle and people park on the sides, and already when there's a car, and people know not to try to hit, when there's oncoming traffic, they avoid it. It's just,
Allison, I will push back. I
okay.
think Bob, you and me were the only 3 people on the call at the select board that knew what the Sharrows were. And Dave and Jim Tassie, but none of the other select board knew what they were.
But none of them intentionally hit bikers either in the travel lane. So it's not like they're gonna see this image in the road and they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is so startling. How do I handle this? They're gonna be like, they have seen Sharrows, they've just ignored them like everybody does.
Yeah, all right. Well, so I want to, Andrew, I want to have some time so that we can put the website together a little bit in terms of information on the Sharrows and on the advisory lane. You're right, it's not that big a deal if we didn't have other things going on in our lives, but it's all doable. You're absolutely right. Somebody else, anybody else other than Linda? I'm giving everybody more time. Okay,
I get
Linda,
it.
fine.
I get it. I just have one last comment.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so my point in getting something out there is not so much to make a big deal over what's happening. I agree with you guys, just do it and get it done, but is to say, here's what's happening. Pathways Committee is getting, and the towns are getting energized and things are changing. So it's more from a PR point of view.
Yes.
And it's not so much like it's something really new and innovative. It is for around here, but it's just to say things are moving along for Pathways.
Okay, because so Dave is looking for a recommendation. I'm going to go around. Do we recommend that Dave paints Norwood this fall? Helen?
Hold on, there's a budgetary part of this too. Hold on.
There's money. There's money.
Yeah.
Every time you paint, these things are not free.
I have to I want to get a price before I just say, boom, I'm gonna paint it too. I know that.
Okay, let me make
I'm
a,
gonna paint it.
let me amend that. If the budget permits,
There we go.
does the Pathways Committee recommend painting in the fall?
Sure.
Sure. Richard?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the Norwood doesn't get a huge amount of traffic. Those lines could well last more than through the winter, Dave.
Oh, I agree. I think you're right with Noah, but it's the plowing that gets rid of the line.
Yeah. Heidi's up. Linda? Up. Andrew, you're already up. You already said. Anita's down and I'm down. So, but so that's 4-2, I think is what it is. Or 5 to 2. 4-2. I can't count. 5-2. Anita and me are down. Anita, did you want to say more?
Yeah, my attitude follows Dave's frugal approach. I just think we're getting into less biking
Yeah.
and it's such a short street. I just don't see the point in doing it.
Mine
now.
as well.
I think we should move forward
Mine
with
as
the
well.
spring.
Why not mechanic?
That's what-
Can we
but-
talk about mechanic also?
Well,
Mechanics in the spring.
Why?
Mechanic will be done in the spring.
It just.
it gets a heck of a lot of traffic.
But
I
that's
just
the
don't think.
point. Like, the whole point is to try to make it safer. And so why do we
That's
not care about making it safer for this winter too?
Don't think
Because
you're
people aren't riding
They are.
so much in the winter.
I mean, they are all the time. Lots of people have that as their only means of transportation. Like, people ride their bikes all winter long.
That's true.
What
The
kind of
sooner-
money are we talking about? Like,
We don't know. Dave hasn't actually, have you priced out Mechanic Street, Dave?
No, that's the part that I am super, super sensitive to spending the town's money when it comes to these kinds of things. And I think about the political
Come up
part
with.
of it. And when you do something like this late in the season, it gives the people that are negative about these things another thing to say, oh, look, I don't agree with this. And not only do I not agree with it, but they're doing it in the wintertime when the snow's going to be covering it anyway, and it's going to be gone in the spring. I just don't like that being something that somebody that maybe be opposed to something just because they have a negative attitude about something can grab onto. I like to not give people that kind of thing to go with. I'd rather do it in the spring when it's the beginning of the season and I've had time to prep the media and get the word out and then talk about it, and it's more it just, I don't know, it just seems to work better that way for me. But that's just how I am, and it doesn't mean I'm right. It's just how I look at it.
So potentially the situation is that you would need twice the money to do Mechanic Street because it would be in the
Right.
fall and you'd have to do it again in the spring.
I'd be doing it
So
twice
that's
out
a
of
question.
twice out
And
of
it's
this
twice
budget.
exactly, out of this budget. It's not like we're flipping a budget cycle.
Right.
So
cost? I mean,
Oh,
honestly, I didn't even know that we were dealing with a massive expense. That would have changed.
Well, let me get the number just so you guys have a handle on like all of the sharrows, all of the lines for Mechanic Street. It'll give you a good working number to kind of, maybe if it ends up being like, $600, it's not so much of a big deal, but it could be closer to $2,000, $3,000. And then when you start looking at that, then you double it. Now you're talking $6,000 out of the paving budget. We had a big year this year with all of the work that we did. I mean, it
Generally.
starts getting tight,
Does that paint really only last one winter? I mean, do you have to paint
We
all the lines every spring?
Yes, every spring we paint the lines. I mean, we paint the parking stalls almost every year. I mean, there's times when they've skipped a year in spots, but depending on the winter, determines how much of that paint will be left in the spring.
That paint is very expensive too.
If I could,
Last year, 2 years ago, in our Rockport budget, they simply couldn't afford to buy it, and it was really hard to get a hold of it. It's just a special kind of paint.
Andrew?
well, what with this COVID going on and all the bike shops are sold out of bikes and it's become very, very popular, it just seems to me it's probably worth doing it now to start the education process for people. They start seeing it. They start seeing it through the winter. I mean, it's only covered when it's snowing and then the roads are plowed and cleared and you'll see them again.
Mhm.
I ride in the winter, a lot of people do, especially, that area. It just seems like the education process could start sooner. People becoming aware of it.
Not doing Norwood in the winter and holding Mechanic until spring.
I mean, Norwood is easy. I don't have a problem with Norwood at all. The Mechanic one, I'd like to know what the number is because we're talking putting sharrows, down to,
I thought the sharrows are expensive, like in the hundreds of dollars each.
oh, exactly. And then you have the line on both sides. It's going to be expensive. Trust me.
And it's 2 sharrows. Every time you do a sharrow, it's 1 on each side. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, I would only be in favor of doing maybe Norwood this fall.
Let's go around again. On Mechanic Street, Helen, you're negative, but
Now we're
positive on
talking
Norwood.
about Rockport weighing in on the town of Camden budget. I mean, I'm just getting.
Because it's a Pathways Committee and we go for
And
both
we
towns.
haven't even talked about this on the select board or if this is something that we're gonna have to do every year, then it's worth it to do every year or it's not. I mean,
No, but we budgeted though, Allison. We didn't budget the painting of Mechanic Street this year. That wasn't part of the budget. That came up
a lot
after.
of select board contingency, but I will stop with my outbursts now. That's the last one.
Richard, are you okay with are you advocating for Mechanic Street to be painted this year?
It would be nice, but I think I'm with Dave on the dollar cost here. It sounds like it's going to be pricey and doing it twice in one budget cycle.
Heidi?
Yeah, I feel like I don't really want to vote in that favor without knowing what the financial impact is.
Linda?
I think our role as the Pathways Committee is not to when, but is to support what Dave is doing in the town of Camden and let the town of Camden work out those details. I'm just happy that it's happening, and I think Norwood Avenue is great, and that's what I think I want to focus on publicizing and let people know, whether that's in 4 months or next week. That's your
Yeah.
decision, Dave.
Anita?
I go ahead with Norwood if you want to. Oops, sorry. Yeah, if you want to go ahead with Norwood, that's fine. Dave says he's not concerned about that cost, but I still echo his concerns about the cost. I think it's great that we're doing this, but it's been a long time that it hasn't been done. I wonder if you could, maybe in the fall, you could put up signs, road signs, and then do the painting in the spring on Mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could probably do that.
So that'd be a good way to get it started.
Yep.
Andrew, are you sticking with, let's do it earlier, get it out?
Oh, absolutely. I think the sooner the better.
Okay,
It's gotta, because there's so many, there's always delays here and there, and I got some paint I could bring down in my kitchen with it. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
I think the sooner the better. Start the
Yep.
process.
Um,
And Dave will get back to us on the cost.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
an important part of it. I mean,
Once we know,
I know.
all right. Well, we'll sit it. We're more conservative on Mechanic Street in terms of our recommendation, but I also echo Linda's comment that I am just doing cartwheels that something is happening and we're getting the support from Dave. It's tremendous. I'm going to push us along here. It's 7:30 and that was our goal to end this, but I have two potentially more urgent items that needs addressing. One of them had to do, I think, Helen, about Aldermere Farms and
Yes.
discussions about moving the fence. Do you
Yeah.
have anything else on that?
No, only that at the select board meeting a week ago, Jeff Hamilton mentioned that he had talked to a woman, I guess it's the new director over there. And apparently they have, oh, Heidi, okay. Then Heidi would know about
I
it.
was just gonna say, we happen to have a manager here. Maybe she knows something, but go ahead, Helen.
Yeah, that the fence was going to be moved. And he did mention pathways, and then he sort of said, well, maybe the select board should do something and leave pathways out of it.
Select board,
Uh,
leave pathways out of it.
That's more or less what he said,
This is Jeff Hamilton.
yes.
I didn't hear that, Helen, but
He seemed to me, he seemed very reluctant to bring pathways into it, that he wanted to continue ahead with it.
oh, I don't know, but I mean, Heidi will let us know, but my impression was that something was going to get presented to us tonight. So I was actually looking on the agenda. I didn't see it. So, but
Heidi.
Yeah, so just real quickly, I think, so I had one conversation with one gentleman about the idea of maybe moving a fence at Aldermere Farm. And then I got an email saying that the select board approved it. So I feel like we have a lot more to work on before we get to that. I would love, love, love to have a better pathway on Russell Avenue along the stretch of the farm for the safety of everyone. And I would love to have that be something that the Pathways continues to look at. The timing and the conversation that I was having was that we are going to be moving, or we're going to be redoing the fence line on Russell Avenue, about 2/3 of it in 2021. And so in my mind, I'm like, those fences last 15 to 20 years, and then we'll be replacing them again. So if the town was ready to have more conversations about a pathway, sidewalk or something, in the next 10 to 15 years, let's think about
Okay.
doing it sooner than later, and we can jump the fence back if we need spacing for that. But I
So
feel like I
Heidi,
need
you're
to have a lot
thinking-
more.
So next year's season, summer, is what you're thinking for the fence line?
Yeah, we would be replacing the fence next spring. We wouldn't have to have the infrastructure of whatever a sidewalk or pathway looks like done next spring.
Boy, it'd be a really cool project for writing an RTP, Recreational Trail Grant, that Rockport could do. They'd be all over that. I mean, we could do that. It'd be excellent. It's something that we have talked about too. We can talk more about this, and we'll talk about it at the next meeting because we have time, Heidi, because the Recreational Trails Grant doesn't come until a year from now. But it's certainly something we want to position ourselves with in the conversation. One thing you can do, Heidi, for background is talk to Ron. about this. There's something about the easements on the property that make doing a pathway hard. At least that's what he thought.
If we were on a pathway that's on the pasture side, we can't have, it can't be a paved sidewalk.
Well, we would never do that. We would do basically a stone dust, smooth stone dust path to give bicyclists and walkers an option to from riding on the road. I think it would be great for slowing down the traffic, and it would make it more bucolic. It's just great. I think it fits right in with Aldermere, actually.
Definitely.
I heard that. The other one, and then this will be the last topic, unless someone else has another urgent one, is I wanted to ask the group a question because I spoke with Mike. Who's your counterpart, Dave?
Mike Young.
Thank you. I wanted to know if I have a question about memory here. Mike Young says they are going to redo the sidewalk in Rockville when they redo the paving of is it Old County Road or Old Rockville? Old Rockland Road. The Old Rockland Road is the road that goes through there. Do you guys remember the conversation we had that the community of Rockville said they don't mind the sidewalk in the current condition it is? They'd rather have money used to improve the intersection between Old Rockland and Mill Street, or Gurney. It's Gurney that goes up there, because the cars come around there really fast and walkers don't feel safe because they have nowhere to stand except in the street. And so I thought we made a recommendation to the select board that the money be used for that infrastructure. Mike Young says he doesn't remember that, and that he's going to use the bond funds for the redoing the existing sidewalk.
Yeah,
And
and I
that's a
looked
big-
through the budget meetings, committee notes, that when we did all that bond and everything, I don't recall the intersection coming up in part of the conversation, and I've only walked it a few times, and it's been years ago. I don't recall it being that bad, but
It's worse now. I clearly remember the Rockville community members meeting in the church there and coming back with a recommendation. I do remember that, but I can't find any record of me communicating that. That's bad.
Yeah,
I don't remember that at all, Jeff.
I can't
Oh,
think
shoot.
you would know either over there.
And I mean, we've
Well,
given.
John Titus, I talked to John and because he pulled the community together, and he said, yes, that's absolutely what I remember. But I looked at my communications with Mike, and did you go back in the select board meeting, Helen? And
No.
any minutes from there? Okay.
No.
Why,
I remember the whole bond issue and which priorities were going to come up as part of the budget discussion, and
all I saw was Rockville,
Yeah.
$20,000, I think. That's all
Yeah.
I saw. Any suggestions on how to stop this? Oh my gosh.
rebuild the sidewalk in Rockville, and I mean, it's been so long.
yes,
It has, but the community voiced their voice and said that we'd rather have it fix this other problem.
But the select board talked about this last year, and as Helen said, this is part of if the bond money was going to be spent, then it was going to be for part of the Rockville sidewalk, not the entire length, but at least it's a start.
Samantha.
Anita?
I am spacing the name of the woman who was a representative that was right there on Old Rockville Street, who's moved away.
Yeah.
but she, as such a community-minded person, would have a recollection of that if someone had contact with her, or had a way of contacting her. That would be another way in of, community member. They've
No,
gotta be plenty of-
John remembers. John Titus remembers.
It's
And he
not,
was,
it's not
And
John.
what about Richard? He would remember. Not Richard Stetson, but Richard
Remsen?
Remsen.
Remsen's not in that area. He wasn't part of
He's
these
over in
discussions. He's
Oh,
he's
no,
over
he's
in
in
West
the-
Rockport. He's in
Oh,
West
yeah, he's in a
Rockport.
different area. That's right. In any case, Jeff, I'm trying to understand, you said, is there any way to prevent this from happening? I'm trying to understand actually what you're trying to do.
Well, hang on, I'll get to that. Dave? Dave wanted to say something.
Was it Catherine? Is that her name?
Catherine,
Is it Alex Aru's mother that lives
Neil.
there?
no, it's,
Meal, M-I-E-L-E.
Yeah,
Oh,
Catherine Meal. That's her name. Yep, yep.
Kathleen.
Kathleen Meal. Yep.
Kathleen Meal. She might have, but she's just gonna echo, yeah, we had the meeting and that's what we recommended. But somewhere it didn't make it up the line. That's the question.
Can we just
So-
talk to the town manager?
That's what Mike Young is gonna do. But the town manager has been a little bit transient in Rockport. I don't know if you know that. There was just an acting town manager and he didn't really have a job and during that time. I don't think he was fully on board because there was another guy that was supposed to be working once a week that was doing the town planning.
Well, Roger Moody was acting for a while. but Linda Clancy.
No, it wasn't Roger. It was the guy that, the
Mr.
guy
Bates?
that used to,
No, that's Bill Napower.
Bill
Yeah.
Napower, that's him. And Bill's not gonna remember
No.
because he was only working on it. He was only working on it, not because he's old, but because he
He's
was only
not
working there
old,
one day
Jeff.
a week. No, I know, because he's only there one day a week.
This,
And
you know,
so-
if it's a crucial thing, Mike Young can go back into to the select board meetings from last January, because I believe that's when it was all discussed. But
Yes,
I don't think, for us, we gave our recommendation and it wasn't disputed and we've held firm to it. So
but I
don't-
believe the recommendation, Linda, was that was representing the Rockville community, which was not to redo the sidewalk, but to do that
I
corner.
don't remember that at all because I remember talking to Rockville way back when I went down to assess that sidewalk and people
And then
told me,
they
"Oh,
changed
man."
their mind. They changed their
Yeah, but
mind.
that was 7 years ago. But it seems crazy that we're even debating this right now, that Rockport
Okay.
should just go ahead and do what it's supposed to be doing, which is create pedestrian access for people.
Well, my point is that what they're gonna do is just put back in what's there and
A
not
short
extend
segment,
it.
right, until the
And
mic
not
goes
do,
down.
right. And Mike's already backpedaling and saying, I don't think we'll have enough money to do much else.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like other infrastructure things. I don't know.
Don't get me started on that.
I know. All right. Does anybody have any particular specific item on this, on the agenda or otherwise, that has some urgency? I see you, Allison. Hang on. I want to give people a chance to think. Any other items? Go ahead, Allison.
It's not urgent. It's just a little piece of nice, good news that I thought maybe you were going to update everybody that the planning board with the wastewater treatment discussion, we actually had a really good outcome and the planning board.
That was, yeah, I was going to do that on the Riverwalk.
Yeah, so they recommended that the fence be removed to facilitate pedestrian and wildlife passage. They were all on board with it. It's not binding, but it was a strong recommendation to the applicant, which is the town of Camden. Nobody said anything pro fence. And it got, in the actual record that it was a recommendation for the fence to go away. So that felt like actual progress.
It was a surprise.
It was.
Big surprise. but when I see it, I'll believe it, I guess. All right, I do have other news, but in deference to the hour, thanks, everybody. Nothing.
Drainage.
Hey, how can you leave this dangling? You have other news.
No. I don't have any urgent news. I'll bring it next month. Is fine too.
Okay.
You know,
Fix the
updates, just
drainage.
not news. Update. Fix the drainage on. Yeah, right. There's that too. Yeah. No, we've been
Oh, the drain, right,
active.
yeah. That looks great.
Yeah. We'll talk more next month. Quick question, 6 o'clock. Everybody better on that? Okay, we'll keep it at 6. No, Allison. 6 o'clock's better than 5:30. All right, 6. Thank you. Good night.
I apologize for coming late. I thought it started at 6:30. My bad.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good
night,
seeing you,
everybody.
Andrew.
Night.
All right,
sir.
everybody.
See y'all. We'll talk
Thank
more.
you, Allison, for hosting.
Oh. my pleasure.
Enjoy the vice presidential debate.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
ooh, yeah.
9 o'clock.
Did you guys see that Patagonia said vote for Sarah Gideon?
Yeah. Saw that.
No, I did not
That
see
blew
that.
me away. Talk about taking a position, a clothing company telling people how to vote.
Oh, Patagonia carries a lot. If I were undecided, that would push me right over the edge because
Absolutely.
all their documentaries are amazing.
Yeah.
Andrew, welcome back.